Hello and welcome to Positively United today, Monday the 9th of February 2026. And we've got West Ham tomorrow. So this video is my team prediction for the game against West Ham. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling just a little bit nervous about this game. More nervous than I did, easily more nervous than I felt about playing Tottenham at home. It seems to me that it doesn't really matter how bad West Ham are. It's always a difficult away game for us, and it brings back bad memories of remember when Ten Hag effectively got sacked because of a defeat at West Ham, that dodgy refereeing, or was it a VAR decision? I've got a draw tomorrow wouldn't surprise me, and the winning streak will come to an end. It will come to an end. I hope it doesn't come to an end with a defeat. A draw at West Ham to me would be, I hope we win. We should win. Draw would be okay, I think. I look, West Ham, they're not getting consistent results now, but they're certainly an awful lot better than they were. And I just feel this could be quite a tough game. And I'm not all guns blazing expecting a win in this game. But I also want to touch upon some transfer rumours that have developed over the last 2 days, specifically with regards to us taking players from Newcastle United. And I don't quite know what to make about these stories. Let's talk about that a little bit more. But Nuno has done a great job at West Ham, I think, and certainly made them a more dangerous prospect for us. But having said that, what's the team that Michael Carrick's going to pick? You know, I don't think he's going to change again. I think this team that you see in front of you, Le Mans, Shaw, Maguire, Martinez, Dalot, Mainu, Casemiro, Cunha, Fernandes, Diallo and Mbumo will be the team he'll start. He might surprise us, but he has not surprised us in the last 2 games. I was convinced he'd pick different players against Fulham. I was convinced he'd pick different players against... Well, I wasn't convinced. I thought he'd actually pick the same team. But I would have liked to have seen him pick maybe 1 or 2 different players against Spurs, but he didn't. As I did in one of my lessons learned a couple of games ago. I think the thing about Carrick is he knows his 11 and he's sticking to it. And there's something old school and admirable about that. That's how football used to be, not that long ago. And he seems to be thinking in that way. I know my team. I'm going to stick with it. Until players let me down, I'm sticking with them. And that's actually, I'm sure that builds confidence amongst the 11 who are being picked. What it must be like being on the outside of that 11, I'm not so sure. I mean, if you're a Lenny Oro or an Aiden Heaven, or even if you're an Agate, certainly if you're a Shesko, you must be feeling it. Shesko must be. So despite the fact that I think that this is the 11 that Carrick will start the game with, the same as he started against Spurs, the same as he started against Fulham. And remember, the only difference between this starting 11 and the one against City and Arsenal is Cunha in. So, yeah, I think he's going to pick the same team. So, how could he change it? Well, I keep hoping... And I know this is mean on Dalot because he's actually been performing pretty well over the last couple of games and probably especially so against Spurs. I would still love to see Mazraoui in that position. If only to keep him interested, but also just to see how it would work with Mazraoui in that position. I really would like to see a player who I think is a better right back and better at tucking in as an auxiliary centre back in a back three. I'd like to see him in that position. I think he's going to pick Dalot again, but I'd like to see Mazraoui. He's certainly not going to play around with any of the others. He doesn't really have a replacement for Shaw at left back. Shaw's got to be one of those players who you think he's been performing really, really well when it's one game a week. This is the first time under Carrick we'll have had 2 games in a week. Played on midday on Saturday, be playing on Tuesday night, so that's 2 full days of rest. That's much, much shorter than they've had up until now, where they've had a full week of rest. For I think there are 2 players in this team who might suffer as a consequence. That's Shaw and Casemiro. Now, he's not going to drop Casemiro. Absolutely no way. He can't. And he can't drop Mainu. So those 2 are safe. Does he drop Shaw? Could he, for example... I've actually got Martinez and Maguire in the wrong places there. Could he push Martinez to the left-back position and bring in Heaven or Yoro in as a centre-back pairing with Maguire? It's a risk. It's a risk, and I don't think he'll take it. So I think the most we could expect change in the back four would be Mazraoui for coming in for Delo. The 2 defensive midfielders, Mainu and Casemiro, that's not going to change. That's just not going to change, and we haven't got the personnel to change it. None of us could, hand on heart, could we say that we'd like Ugarte instead of Casemiro or Mainu until it has to be done with 10 minutes to go or something like that. Tyler Fletcher? Yeah, we're not going to play him from the start, are we, in a game like this? You know, much as I want to see youth promoted, that's a lot to ask Tyler Fletcher after he's only just made his debut for a few moments against Spurs on Saturday. So no, that's not going to change. The front line. Well, I've got to say, I'd love to see Šeško get a start. I'd like it for his confidence. I'd like it just to see us play in a slightly different way, just to see if we can. I know we can because we've done it when Šeško has come on, but I really would like to see Šeško get a start. So who drops out in those circumstances? Well, I've made this change before, although Carrick has never done. I'm going to take Diallo off, going to bring Šeško on, and obviously I'm going to play Šeško up front with Mbumo coming over to the right-hand side. So that's the team I'd go with. Mazraoui coming in for Delo, Šeško coming in for Ahmad with Mbumo coming over to the right. But I don't think he's going to do it. I think he's going to stick to the team he played against Spurs. I think he's going to stick to the team he played against Fulham and then change it with substitutions in the second half. So it'd be fascinating to see what does happen tomorrow. As I said, I think West Ham are going to be quite a test. I tell you what, if he comes out tomorrow with a win, that's really going to set the cat amongst the pigeons. Including, by the way, the commentators on social media who, I don't know if you've noticed, are setting the bar for Carrick higher and higher and higher. I saw one of them yesterday say that it doesn't matter if Carrick qualifies for the Champions League, he still shouldn't get the job permanently. So remember, the target for Ruben Amorim at the beginning of the season, for some people, was just like a top half of the table finish. For others, yeah, it was European qualification, but nobody was mentioned Champions League. It was Europa League. Now, Carrick is being held to a higher standard than the permanent manager at the beginning of the season. I just don't get it. I really don't get it. And of course, for some social media commentators, some YouTubers, Carrick will never, ever pass their tests because their tests will always move. The better Carrick does, the goalpost will just get taken further and further and further away. The winning line will always be in the distance for Carrick because he'll always move it. It doesn't matter how well he does, he'll never be able to achieve their target because the target will always move. Yeah, let's live with that. let's live with that. It's very interesting. A lot of people made a great deal about what Gary Neville said in the Gary Neville podcast yesterday on Sky after the Liverpool City game, where Gary Neville said he'd spoken to the club, meaning Manchester United, and they told him that they've already started the process to appoint the new permanent head coach, and that Carrick will be in the running if at the end of the season he says he wants to be. And this was portrayed by some as this great revelation that, oh, Carrick's not even in the running. He's got to ask to be in the running. Was anything that Gary Neville said a surprise, really, if you think about it? Number one, Manchester United have already started the process. Well, I bloody well hope they have. Because if they're serious about talking to, big name candidates, they really do need to start right now. They might not be able to speak directly to those big name candidates because they're managing England or Germany or America, but they'll be able to talk to them through their agents and through their intermediaries. And let's face it, that means really talking to the candidate direct. It's just that it can't be visible. So that's not a surprise. The language that Carrick will be in the running if he wants to be, it seems to me just to be a kind of polite way of saying, well, we took Carrick on as a interim, although he didn't use the word interim, but head coach until the end of the season. But if he lets us know he wants to be in the running for the job permanently, he can let us know. Well, that's just like a courtesy, isn't it? There's nothing insightful with that. There's nothing surprising there. I thought what Gary Neville said yesterday was just almost exactly what I expected him to say. I don't think there was any shocks there. I don't think there was any surprises. There certainly wasn't a message saying Carrick's not going to get the job. There was certainly not a message saying Carrick's going to get appointed the manager if they go to West Ham on Tuesday and win. We all know what the lay of the land is. They're not going to repeat the mistake they made with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and appoint him mid-season. Not that wasn't the right decision. It was the right decision at the wrong time because it allowed negativity to develop because of the timing of the announcement. Don't do that again. Set some criteria. Wait till the end of the season. And if Carrick has met those criteria, then he can get the job. Remember, the criteria that I've outlined on this channel, qualification for Europe, not Champions League, Europe, playing the Manchester United way, and keeping his coaching staff together if he's made a permanent appointment. Let's see if he matches those targets by the end of the season. What I want to talk about next is these rumours, transfer rumours that have swirled around over the last 2 days, which are based on players currently at Newcastle. So it started a couple of days ago with Ben Jacobs. Sorry, I sighed when I said Ben Jacobs' name. I don't know about you. I'm sort of tired of Ben Jacobs after the mystery midfielder story that, frankly, you or I could have put out there as a story, because everybody knows United have got a weakness in midfield. So then just say Manchester United are looking at a mystery midfielder that might happen at the end of the transfer window. Literally anybody could have said that and it'd have been accurate. So, yeah. To be honest, I think Ben Jacobs is a journalist with slightly shot credibility at the moment. But he started putting it around that Manchester United were interested in Anthony Gordon. I sort of like Anthony Gordon, but I've seen Anthony Gordon disappear in matches. I've seen Anthony Gordon underperform in matches. I don't know if Anthony Gordon is the absolute number one choice for me on the left side of midfield as a or a left-sided attacker. I don't know if he's any better than Rashford. So if we want a left side, look, I'm not suggesting this, don't get me wrong. But if we want a left-sided midfielder / attacker and we want to save ourselves some money, well, why don't we just bring Rashford back? I don't understand why we're after a sort of ex-Everton Claire Balding lookalike as our left midfield, as our left attacker. So I'm going to have to eat all my words if we actually end up buying him. But I don't know. It just seems like Newcastle are clearly going through a troubled time. I don't understand how Eddie Howe is not more in the firing line. And I know that the stories out of Newcastle are, the owners are perfectly okay with what Eddie's doing. That it's a long-term project and they're totally behind Eddie Howe. Look, I don't believe those owners have bought Newcastle United for Newcastle United to be in 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th position. I really don't. And winning a League Cup. I really don't. I think they wanted to do a City. Now, it's not actually possible to do a Man City these days because no one's going to be able to get away with that many violations of football regulations as City has done. That was a one-stop shop. That's only ever going to happen once. And City got away with it. City won the lottery that time. So Newcastle can't do that. But I'm telling you, they're not going to be satisfied with where they are. And I think Eddie Howe is at least in some difficulty. And it seems that the press are spotting this, and the press are speculating that there is disenchantment and discontent in the playing staff. So today, the Sun claimed that Sandro Tonali is high on United's summer shortlist. Really? Well, he's not been mentioned before. It's pure coincidence, is it, that he's now being mentioned when Newcastle are having some difficulty. Look, Tonali is a good player, but he hasn't had the best. I mean, he's been erratic, I think, this season. I think that'd be the way I would put it. And this is the thing that worries me about Tonali. I think one of the things that United have learned over the last 2 or 3, 4 seasons is you can't buy a player just because they're a good football player. You've got to look beyond the player into the personality, into the character of the player you're buying. You've got to buy good lads as well as being good players. Does anybody doubt that Mbomo is a top man? Cunha looks like he cares about football and nothing else. Lamans looks exactly the same. Shesko looks exactly the same. These look like really solid personalities. Tonali had a massive gambling problem. And you know what happens to players who've got massive gambling problems. Do we want that at Manchester United? Again, I'll have to eat my words if we end up buying him. But I don't know. I've just got a feeling that this story is driven entirely by press speculation that the Newcastle squad must be disenchanted because they're not doing as well as they thought they would do. And they're probably not going to qualify for the Champions League or any European competition. And then that would start an exodus of players knocking on the manager or the owner's door and saying, we want out. We didn't sign up for this. Let's wait and see. Maybe there is some truth in it. But I tell you what, I'm not going to believe any story where the start of a rumour or the start of a story is Ben Jacobs. Not anymore. Sorry, Ben. Yeah. And the story about Tonali broke in the Sun. Sun are not always wrong. You know, I'm not one of these who hates the Sun. I know it's very popular to be so. It's not the paper I would choose to read, but I don't absolutely hate it. And it does sometimes get stories right, but not that many. It's not that many. It's not the source I would turn to for, the ultimate truth. So I don't know about you, but I find these stories very speculative, and I'd be surprised if they were true. But we'll wait and see. Still think that list of 3 midfielders that we've been living with for a very long time now is probably the one that is still true. And I still think Elliot Anderson is probably the player they'd most like to have, despite the fact he's not a number 6. But I've got a feeling they're going to want to turn him into more of a number 6, but with a sort of marauding forward capability, which would actually, in terms of our past players, turn him into something that looks a bit more like a Roy Keane. I don't think he's Roy Keane, though. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, let's wait and see on all that. Anyway, that's the video for today. The the predicted 11s are turning to be a bit dull at the moment because Carrick knows his 11. And I don't think we should criticise him for that. Be fascinating to see what happens against West Ham tomorrow. Let's keep fingers crossed for a win. I think it's going to be a tough game. I really do. West Ham are fighting for their lives. Their manager is turning them around. I think it could be quite a tricky game tomorrow. The winning streak will come to an end. I hope it comes to an end with a draw, not a defeat. But it will come to an end at some stage, and we need to be prepared for that. And of course, we do need to be prepared for if that winning streak does come to an end. Oh, the anti-Carrick lobby they will be touching themselves for the whole of the rest of the day, won't they? Because it'll be their dream come true that the winning streak is over. But we'll live with that if it happens. Right. If you like the video, please like it. If you like what I do on this channel, please subscribe. If you've got a friend who supports United and you think might be interested in this channel and what I do here, tell them about the channel, persuade them to subscribe as well. You can follow me on X. There's a link in the description. You can donate for the channel if you want to. I've got a coffee account. The link is in the description. What would I use the money for? Well, to up the technical capability of the channel and to promote it. I don't promote the channel at all at the moment, apart from posts on X, because promotion costs money. And any donation at all would go to tech and promotion of the channel. But that's it for today. Until we meet again tomorrow, remain always positively united.